Okay, we are going to be doing the Fluid Labs and Fitting lab number 1. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a tube, but first we have to decipher the size of the tube. So I have 2 different tubes here, and I'm going to take my ruler and measure it, and I have 4/32, which means this is a -4 tube. Okay, I want to measure this one here. Let's see what I get for this one here. I get 6, no, I almost get 8/32. This would be a -8 tube. So we are going to cut a -4 tube. This is a hydraulic line. This was a line that came out of it came out of a airplane. I forget which type it came out of. But you'll see, so this is already flared here. What I want to do is cut that flare off. And I don't know, you know, I want to get it, all these tubes are labeled right at the end here. Peel this label back a little bit farther in order to get this sleeve to come off. And we'll cover sleeves tomorrow, the different fittings that go on these. So,
what's the purpose of the sleeve?
All right, I'll tell you that tomorrow.
Okay.
Today we're going to practice cutting. Okay.
Right.
So you'll see on our cutting wheel that there is a little groove here, and all of them have that. If you don't, you've got a plumbing cutting tool, and we don't use plumber's tools out here. We're an airplane mechanic, right? All right, so I put that flare, that's the purpose of that groove is for the flare, so if you have a damaged flare, you can do the minimum amount of material loss in case you need to use that. And then to cut it, always cut towards the open part of the tool, okay? And then you come around and you tighten it. You come around, give it a squeeze, come around, give it a squeeze. Every time I go around, I'm squeezing. And now it's starting to grab here. It should not take this much. I'm wondering if this cutting tool is actually, I just grabbed one out of the student supplies, so it might not work. There we are. Okay, so you can see the flare came off. Now we have to clean that flare end, because what it's done is that wheel pinches as it goes in, and then it kind of lays the material over. If you're working with a very hard fluid line for a Boeing, it wouldn't do that, but this is a small airplane fluid line. This is a 3003 material because it's semi-soft. I want to dress the end off a little bit. It's a little jagged there, so I'm taking my super tool. Just take a file. Be with you in a second there. Still a little jagged on the inside. I'm going to take this, each of these cutters has a cleaning, deburring tool. That's a good word for it. So it just lightly run it in there, and it deburrs everything. Okay? All right, that is a successful cut. Now, if you really wanted to impress the instructor and get a really good grade, take a little sandpaper, like 320 sandpaper, right? Because what's going to happen is we are going to flare this, and for the video purposes, I'm going to flare it today. We're not scheduled to flare till a couple days, okay? Because I have to teach you all the tools. But speaking of teaching you the tool, so this flaring tool, or cutting tool, has a screw here, the graduated screw, so you can go in and out with this cutter. That way you can fit any number of types of fluid lines in here. These roll in here as well. This cutting, that's why this cutting wheel here moves, and this one has a nick in it. So this is got to be red tag. Okay, that's why I was having such a problem with it. So I will red tag that, tag out, lock out. Yes, very good. So I'll take care of that later. What we do for flaring, we have a flaring tool, okay? And it has dies here that have the different sizes on there. So we are going to look for, there's our quarter. We're doing a 1/4 inch tube, which is a -4, right? So you put the 1/4 inch on each side of the die. A 1/4. So when you put it together, you'll see 1/4 on each side, and you'll put the line in there. And the line just, it fits in there, but then it's also, when you push down on it, it won't come out, it's snug. So I need to get this line has this, I gotta get the sleeve back farther. Sorry. You tell this is real life. This is, you know, not some made up lab that I'm trying to do here. It's a good thing I didn't cut my fingernails last night, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. As I was driving home from the airport last night, I thought I should cut those. But I didn't get home till late last night, so. We'll just have Jimmy edits this out. That way not everybody has to endure all this silence.
The power of editing.
Power of editing is correct. Alright. That way when I mess up, he can edit it out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, so ooh, the sleeve moves nice in there. So before you flare, you have to have a sleeve. This is an AN819, and this is, the nut is an AN818 nut, okay? You also have to have the appropriate size for the appropriate tube, right? You can't stick this nut on here, it won't fit. You stick this nut on here. Oops, that's not the nut. That's the nut. See how loose that is? You gotta have the right stuff on there.
Should it just barely fit, kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll just be snug. That's why just that little coating from that sticker was too much for the sleeve to move on it. That's how tight it is. Alright, so one thing we do before we start is we lubricate the cone on here with some Dow Corning 4. That way it won't want to grab the material. It will just rotate on it instead of gouging it out. You don't want it to gouge, then you'll have a bad flare if you do that. Alright, so we've got this correct size here. With this tool, you stick the hose in there, and with, I need one more hand. Can you focus in on this a second here? You stick the tube in, and with this arm being down here, it hits right there. Can you see that? Okay, that is how we tell how that the tube is in far enough when it hits that. And we're gonna push this down here, lock it in, and then this comes back, this comes up, and we lock it down. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? And then we're gonna flare it, and you just spin the cone in, and you're just going to want to see the flare touch the die, but you don't want to smash it in there too far, okay? Alright, so there's where I'm at. The cone, the flare has just touched the cone, or the dies. That's all we need. If you go too far, you'll smash the material, and then your flare won't fit into the nut. Okay? So we take it back out. You can see the flare there. You see that flare? See how the sleeve fits over that very nicely, and the nut comes over top. So we've known we've done a good flare there. Also, you have to make sure, might be hard to see, but that flare has to come to the outside of that fitting of the sleeve. Okay? And that is a good flare. The only other thing we'd have to do would be to test this flare once we have made it. So that is how you do a flare. You'll be doing that tomorrow once we go through a few more things like fittings. But today you're going to cut a piece of this line here. And I want you to measure 12 inches. See how this is semi-hard? I want you to measure 12 inches, then use the tubing cutter, cut it off, and then use the tubing cutter deburring tool on the end, deburr it. If it looks jagged, clean it with a file and or some sandpaper, and then I'm going to give you a lab sheet that tells you how to do all of this step by step, and then we will make a tube. Once you've made this tube here, we're going to install it on this fixture here, and we will also do the bends. That comes in a couple of days. Okay, I'll teach you that tool as well. But it has to fit on here, all right? So preciseness of your cut today determines how well your fitting, your tube comes off. It has to fit on this mock-up board here, all right? So. Alright, see how that fits just right? It's snug, it's tight. So the only way to get this off is to take it off on both sides, and then you can rock it to get it out, okay? So that is today's class, and go ahead and start on your labs. Thank you.